Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. Today I would like to cover John Byrne's best Alpha Flight issues. Of course, this is in my humble opinion, but that's what makes comics great. We can talk about stuff like this. And I'm including all four of these covers here in the opening, but I have to set what I consider to be John Byrne's best issues aside for a moment and talk about issue number 13, which isn't really part of this list, but I want to cover it anyway because it follows the tragic events of issue 12, which gutted me as a kid. I was totally blown away. I'm sure everyone who was reading it was. But issue 13 put the final nails in Guardian's coffin, to not put too fine a point on it, because there was no miraculous comeback. John Byrne was deadly serious. Guardian was dead. And what would come later in the series toward the end of his run, of course, was another fake out, classic John Byrne fake out. Guardian did not return, even though it seemed that he had. Couple minor things before I just quickly page through number 13. I loved the way the editors, and I'm assuming John did this, with the corner box reflecting who was in the title. One of my constant criticisms of Alpha Flight as a superhero team comic was it really wasn't much of a superhero team comic. And don't get me wrong, I loved Alpha Flight, loved every issue of Byrne's run. But I was often disappointed by it because we never got to see Alpha Flight as a team really function as a team. They were less of a team even really than the Defenders, who had really cool moments of acting as a team. Of course, their series went on far longer than Byrne's run on Alpha Flight was, but I digress. So diving in here, just a quick page. And this is a brilliant issue with brilliant storytelling. What an incredible nightmare sequence. I do love this cover with Milgram and Sienkiewicz on these tombstones, and of course Byrne's name right there prominently in the foreground. Not sure who that would be, but we get these very stark images. The title is Nightmare. It's all Byrne artwork here, and this is amazing. It looks great, but these are classic, like John Byrne shortcuts being taken here with the white backgrounds. But the storytelling is phenomenal. Pencils are rough, though. I mean, this is a rougher, faster John Byrne here. It's almost like he's doing 3/4 pencils and then they're just coloring them. This is gorgeous too. Just so incredibly moving. And of course, what we're going to see is this is indeed a nightmare. So the title is Nightmare, and the book opens with a wordless nightmare sequence. Guardian, of course, coming from the grave. And here the nightmare ends. And of course, Shaman comforting Heather. Judd's there. And he would, of course, later develop a love affair with, not a one-sided love affair, actually. It's unrequited with Heather Hudson. It's great, too. In issue 12, Shaman had shrunken Smart Alec down and then what to do with him. I'm still uneasy about the way you chose to deal with Smart Alec. There was little else I could do, Judd. When Alec Thorne looked into my medicine bag, it took his mind. The least I can do is take care of his body until I can restore him to sanity. Reducing him thus seemed the most efficient method. I think you missed my point, Michael. Smart Alec was more or less the leader of Omega Flight, and they were directly responsible for Guardian's murder, eh? Carrying him around in your bag while you search for a way to restore his mind seems too good for the likes of him. So Judd, he can be tough. I mean, he was a mercenary. He's a hard man. Recap of what happened. I do love Byrne's figure work. It's just phenomenal. This is so good here. And the tragic ending recounted. And Heather is trying to get assistance out of Gary Cody. And again, we have very stark work here, not a lot of backgrounds. And then the interesting technique John's using on the cityscapes here. I think these must be pictures that he's doctoring. They look incredible. Pretty great. I don't know if that's a Canadian thing or not, JoJo's. And then here we have a hint of what's coming, biology class, next issue. And we're going to see this color featured prominently on the cover next issue. Let's see if our letters page has anyone interesting before we move on. No, okay, so let's get into it. So the first issue of what I consider to be the 3 best Alpha Flight issues of John Byrne's run on the book is number 14, What Lurks in Lake Ontario. And so this artwork, again, is all John Byrne. Pencils and inks. We get the corner piece reflecting our cast. So these are the Alpha members we're going to see in this issue. Down from last issue. So of course we open with a beautiful splash page with Snowbird discussing issues with Shaman about how she was unable to leave the North. She's tied to she basically can't operate outside of Canada. And then here's some nice foreshadowing here. Snowbird leaning against this rock, and the rock is corrupted somehow. And from beyond this realm of mortals is heard a cry, faint and far away. The ancient gods, it seems, are not pleased with their daughter this day. So that's all we're going to get of Snowbird in this issue. And I think Shaman. We'll see, though. So we have essentially our second splash page, biology class. And Heather, who's recovering from her trauma of seeing Guardian die, seeing James Hudson die, is with Eugene Judd, Puck, and they're in Toronto. Yep. This is Ontario Place, home of the world's largest curved cinema screen, a fast-growing entertainment center for Canada's largest city. I'm glad you persuaded me to spend a few days with you, Judd. This place isn't exactly a cure-all, but it's a tonic. Glad to hear you're enjoying yourself, Heather. This restaurant I mentioned is just over there. So they have a long talk about the future of Alpha Flight. What's Heather going to do? And suddenly there's a scream. And again, we have John Byrne using this technique of taking this, in this time, an aerial image and basically slapping it into the comic. Really cool, I like it. And they come to the scene. Miss, are you all right? What happened? No. Calm down. Try to tell me what happened. My baby. It took my baby. Something in the water. I was just walking with Timmy in his stroller and... No. Puck's about to jump in. Heather points out that he can't swim. So she heroically jumps in. And this is shades of what we're going to see with her moving forward. So she's into the lake now. She finds the stroller. Feels like I'm starting to need some fresh air. Better see if I can get the stroller up to blast. It's all stuck in the weeds and muck. I'll make one try at getting it loose, then I'm gone. But, what the? So she sees something terrible. Great, too, that John doesn't immediately reveal the monster. We just have to see in Heather's reaction with the horror of what she's looking at. And she just gets to the surface. And there's a roiling around her. She's yanked back down. She comes back up, and Puck grabs her. Her legs, they've been ripped to shreds. Looks like somebody went after her with 100 razor blades. Heather, can you hear me? Don't try to move, babe. I'll find a doctor. So, again, we see hints of the creature. And now we're going to get Aurora, a cut to Aurora, and that's nice storytelling here, meanwhile. And she, of course, has a split personality. So she's got some serious mental challenges, and they're coming back to haunt her here. And this is going to galvanize her to make a fateful decision about her identity in the coming issues. Won't be covered, I think, in the 3 issues I'm talking about here, but later. But now it is time to look eastward once again to the gleaming tower of Bethune Memorial Hospital in Toronto's bustling heart. How is she, Doc? Very, very lucky, I'd say, Mr. Judd. There's a lot of damage, but there does not appear to be any tissue loss. She won't be posing for any legs commercials for a long while, but she'll be able to walk again and should heal with minimum scarring. So she tells him, she's obviously conscious again. She tells Puck what she knows. But that thing in the lake, what was it? Is anything to be done? The cops wanted to debrief me about it, but I insisted on waiting to see how you pulled through. I've got an appointment with an Inspector McMurphy at 4:30. You better tell me all you can. So here's Puck's meeting with McMurphy. Here's all the victims. These people have been disappearing around the lakefront. There's no link between the victims. And there's not much remains left of them. So something very strange is happening. So Puck realizes he's got to do something. Love this house ad here, really cool. I'm pretty sure I bought all these except for Power Pack. Definitely bought these two, and I love the Answer as a villain too, so I think I bought this as well. So Marina, the aquatic amphibious member of Alpha Flight, has been enjoying a love affair with Namor, the Submariner, and her signal medallion goes off. Puck is calling her, basically. A few hours later, on the waterfront of Toronto, if she responded immediately to the signal, she should arrive right about now. Hello, Marina. Judd, I did not expect it to be you after what happened. That's when, remember, she attacked Puck in issue number 2, nearly disemboweled him. I don't carry grudges, Marina. Let bygones be never were, as I say. Besides, in this case, this is a case that needs you and your special talents, eh? You're a good friend, Judd. Now what's happening? So he lets Marina know what's going on, and they talk about it, and she's going to investigate. But before we get to that, we get to see Michael Two Youngman's daughter, who will become Elizabeth, who will become Talisman. So we get some setup for future issues here. Checking our Alpha Waves letter page. Still too early to get the reaction to issue number 12. They're talking about issue number 10 here. Next issue, more of the mystery, more of the strange dilemma of snowbirds, more of the macabre menace in Lake Ontario. Don't miss, blind date. All right, so we're going to move on. And this is where it really starts to get good, because in Alpha Flight 16, we have a really great cover here. Bob Wyasek comes on as the finisher. So, and he's going to be the off and on inker for the rest of Byrne's run. He does this one. Oops, sorry. Wrong one. Got ahead of myself here, folks. 15. Got to go from 14 to 15, not 16. My apologies. Submariner versus Marina. No matter who wins, the good guys lose. So here, we're going to get an opening again with Snowbird. She reveals her identity. And right away, before I even get to the credits, look at how much tighter this artwork is. It's great. And the reason why is Bob Wyasek is now the finisher on the book. This is tremendous. And now we're going to get our title page, blind date. John Byrne, writer, penciler. Now welcome Bob Weissek, inker. And yeah, this is really nice. Byrne, this is as good as Byrne stuff has looked on Alpha Flight since issue 1 or 2. The lake looks beautiful in the sunlight. I'd almost forgotten how exquisite the surface world can be. Well, don't get too enraptured, eh? It could easily as be blood turning the water red with all the killings that have happened out there. I think I love the scale difference between Puck and Marina here. She's slightly in the foreground, so he's not quite this short, but he looks really cool. Love Puck. I would say he's my favorite member of Alpha Flight. Probably why this is my favorite 3 issues of Byrne's run, is it so heavily features Puck. And he's never even in costume. I mean, aside from on the cover of 16, which I just showed you out of order. But it's great. Anyway, Marina conducts her investigation. And love this. This just looks so good, this underwater action. Further and further out, her probing senses reach like long invisible fingers, sifting through fine sand. In a slowly increasing series of spirals, she swims, feeling the textures of the water, nuances undetectable by even the most precise of surfacemen's instruments. I can't say enough what a good writer John Byrne has become by this point. It's great that, he spent all those years plotting with Claremont on X-Men. He gets FF, just crushes it on FF on a long 5-year run. And in the meantime, he does his own title, Alpha Flight. These are his creations, and the writing is phenomenal. And I can complain about some of the story choices and the fact that they weren't ever really a team. The stories were still entertaining. So she finds this cave, and really great claustrophobic moment here. She gets stuck, but she powers through. And there's an underground tunnel here. And of course, then we're going to see, again, we don't get to see the creature, we see it through someone else. We see the terror through someone else's eyes. Her promise to Puck is forgotten as the deluge of stimuli washes over her. She rises from the waters and her senses drop once more to mere human levels. It will cost her dearly. So, we get a brief shot of Marina, and again, we knew, or not Marina, Aurora. We knew she was going to be in the book because we saw her here, because once again, the corner box gives us a nice clue about who's in the book. So again, a fateful decision is going to be made here by Aurora to sort of change her look and hopefully change her mental outlook as well. Meanwhile, Puck thinks, where is she? It's been almost 2 hours since she went under. Maybe I shouldn't have let her go. Maybe I should have found a way. Called in other members. Snowbird is more powerful than Marina, and she can change into animals. I've never actually seen her turn into a fish or the like, but that doesn't... Wait a sec. Marina, I'm over here. His powerful voice belies his stature. Rolling and echoing across the lake, Marina moves quickly shorewards, and Puck almost immediately regrets calling. Oh no, not again. Her breath comes in whining rasps. Beneath her skin, her muscles twitch and jerk, as if trying to be other than what they are, and in her eyes burns a cold and terrible fire, a fire of hatred and death. This is great. Wow, what a great panel. And now we're just going to have a tremendous action sequence here as Puck really struts his stuff against arguably a physically superior Marina. A sudden animal snarl splits wide her face, sharp teeth glinting in the dying light. And when she strikes, it is with the lightning speed of a moray eel. But as fast as she is, Puck is faster. Why does this keep happening to her? These murderous rages make no sense. Marina's the sweetest, kindest being I've ever met. What sets her off? But even though he easily evaded the girl's first attack, Puck knows he is at a profound disadvantage. This is no good. My training, my instincts are all to the offensive. I can parry and dodge for a while, but unless I find a way to take her out with the least amount of damage, I might slip. And if that happens, she'll be dead. I love this internal monologue of Puck's. It tells us more about the character because his past is shadowy at this point. And so in this story, we do learn some really critical and cool things. And he is a killer. He is deadly, even though he fights unarmed. I promised Guardian my killing days were over when I was paroled into Beta Flight. I don't want to break that promise if I can help it, especially not if it means killing Marina. So the fight continues on, freewheeling. Last time she took off northwards and drew all of Alpha into a very nasty situation with a would-be world beater who called himself the Master. So here's another interesting tidbit of Puck's past coming forward here. Now, let's see if my year in Spain with Papa Hemingway actually taught me anything I can use. So if Puck was in Spain with Hemingway, that would have been during the Spanish Civil War in the late 1920s, early 1930s. So Puck is, even in 1983 when this was published, Puck is much older than he appears to be. So again, John Byrne is laying on a bit of mystery here with this character. How has he stayed so strong and vital for all these years? And I have to say, before I move on, as much as I love Bill Mantlo, I was not a fan of Bill Mantlow's answer to that question. Not a fan. So the battle continues. For just a fleeting moment, the world changes around a man called Puck. The years roll back, and the arena in which he faces this lunging death is suddenly another place, another time. The intricate movements drilled into him in hour upon painful hour of arduous practice come back of a sudden, as natural, as instinctive as they had finally become all those years ago. He is living the moment of his triumph. He no longer sees the slender, glistening form of the halfling girl. He sees the horn and flashing hooves of El Toro. They had laughed, the other candidates seeking after the suit of lights, laughed at this little man, this tiny foreigner who thought he could face the half-ton of horror that was the bull. But the teacher had not laughed. He knew the great esteem in which the famous American writer held the small Canadian. And he saw the fire that burned so bright in the eyes of this candidate. And he was not proven wrong. Judd had faced the bull that day in Spain, as he had faced 100 terrors across the world. Faced them and vanquished them. Just brilliant. Love it. Great writing by Byrne. But unfortunately, Submariner shows up, and reminiscent of his misunderstandings during the Avengers war between Doctor Doom and Atuma, he shows up and promptly attacks the wrong person. Imperious Rex, I know not what power you possess, little man, but it will avail you not against the Submariner. Wait a minute, you got it all, but he knocks him out. I mean, cool as Puck is, he can't hang with the Submariner. He's a powerhouse. Suddenly, Submariner realizes what's going on. Her only answer is a feral snarl that drives nails of ice down the length of his spine. And we get a visit with Shaman, who, as a tribal medical doctor, is in his capacity as a healer here. His daughter Elizabeth, who will be Talisman, shows up. They have a confrontation. Meanwhile, once again, Toronto. My patience has been rewarded. These past weeks have seemed at times long indeed, but it has been worth the waiting. And after 40,000 years, what is the price of a few weeks? Nothing compared to the prize. I knew the natural instincts of my pet would create a situation that would inevitably lead to the involvement of Alpha Flight, specifically little Marina. But the arrival of the Submariner is an unexpected bonus, since my long-range plans must of a necessity include the destruction of his race. This chance to study him close hand is most opportune. So we have the master here showing up in civilian attire, but nonetheless we know who it is. And Submariner is struggling with Marina. Puck recovers but is stunned by the master with a nerve pinch, which is really cool. I have not encountered this one before, but from his stature I would assume he is the alpha known as Puck. He intrigues me. That he has overcome so many physical shortcomings suggests an indomitable strength of will. And Submariner's trying to hold back against Marina, but she scratches at his eyes with her clawed hands. My eyes, the witch has blinded me. So he's losing it here, but suddenly the master shows up, and of course we get, he's blurry because his eyes are damaged, and he was able to also nerve pinch the Submariner and take him out. And now we see him in his real attire. For am I not the master of the world? So, next issue, and forsaking all others. We get a Micronauts New Voyages ad here at the bottom of Alpha Waves. Folks are commenting on Alpha Flight number 10. And now we get to 16. Sorry, folks, for the earlier mishap, but here we are. We've arrived at the final issue of what I consider Byrne's 3 best on this 28-issue run. And Bob Weissek is listed as the finisher here. I should say Andy Yanchus is the colorist, Rick Parker lettering, Denny O'Neil editor, Jim Shooter editor-in-chief, and that was the same in the previous issues as well. In Forsaking All Others, really great establishing shot here, this splash page. Love this purple background color. But again, the art is much sharper than we saw in 13 and 14 when Byrne was doing pencils in what I would consider to be half inks. And the master has Puck and the Submariner captive. My apologies, small one. When I saw you battling Marina, I took you for an enemy. You would not be in the predicament but for me. Save it for later, Namor. I'm not holding any grudges just now, eh? I'm more interested in how this so-called master happens to be alive after his first run-in with Alpha. You are both still conscious. Amazing. Namor is being almost totally dehydrated, while I have deprived Judd of almost all oxygen in his cylinder. So the master recounts how he escaped the events of Alpha Flights 3 and 4. In those freezing seas, even my perfect physiognomy could not long have survived. But I had planned far ahead. 5,000 years before, I had used the resources of the ship to begin the slow construction of this vessel. Independent and self-sustaining, it was waiting for me not far beneath the ice. So here he is here, a little bit of a scale discrepancy from what we see here in the splash page, but that's fine. I love the master's costume too, really cool. And here's Marina, very savage, almost partially transformed. Monster, what have you done to her? Done? I have done nothing. You see Marina now as she truly is, Namor, an alien killing machine. This is Marina restored to her true function. I have but rekindled in her lost purpose. And now we get the big reveal. Puck has crossed and recrossed the globe, seeing and doing things most men would dare not even dream. Let's see here. This is interesting too. Of course, these folks would not be reflected in our corner box, but we're going to get two new, very important members of the Alpha Flight cast showing up here. Roger Box and Madison Jeffries. Mr. Jeffries, welcome to Moose Jaw. I'm glad you could come. Hey, anytime anybody sends me a plane ticket and $1,000, I'll go anywhere. You botches? That's box. You know, as if it were spelled B-O-X. Come in and sit down. So, this, of course, the design for Box reminds me of John Byrne's robot design for Moth, one of the Guardians, the one that came after Joff in X-Men 108. Very reminiscent. Of course, he was gigantic, and the Box robot is merely just large. Anyway, long story short, Box wants Madison Jeffries to help him improve the Box robot so it can never be taken over again and used to kill. Because remember, we'll look in the recap here in issue 13, that's what happened. The Box robot was used. He beat the hell out of Guardian and damaged his suit so badly that it was going to blow up. As Hudson was trying to fix it, Heather interrupts him. That split second is the difference, and he's incinerated. So Roger Box wants to avoid that. He wants to use Madison Jeffries, who's a mutant, and use him to help him redesign Box. With your skill and my knowledge, we can recreate Box bigger, stronger, more powerful than ever before. And once we've done that, we will track down Jerry Jackson and Delphine Courtney. The rest of Alpha Flight doesn't know they escaped, but I know, and I'm going to destroy them. So that's awesome. Byrne, of course, planting seeds for future issues. Here, Heather is in the hospital recovering from the savage injury she sustained in issue 14 when suddenly an old friend returns. What was the sense of you dying? There ain't no sense to it, babe. There's never any sense to dying. There's just death. Who? Who do you think, kid? I'd have been here sooner, but you're a tough lady to track down. Logan. So Wolverine is about to make his first guest appearance in Alpha Flight. Except for flashbacks. He was in some flashbacks in some previous issues. And so this is just a hint of what we've got coming in issue 17, which largely becomes a reprint of X-Men 109. Cool issue, but again, it's mostly X-Men 109 with a few staging pages. So we're back now, and we see what Puck and the Submariner were so horrified by. We now get to fully see the creature, and it is this is some grade A horror work done by Byrne here in a superhero comic. The waters of Marina's tank stir, filling with strange scents perceptible only to her. She feels with a tiny failing part of her mind, the last vestige of her identity slip away. And from the roiling center of the obscene mass before her, a horrible image peeks out. Only a few hours ago, the shapeless thing before her stole a tiny baby from its mother. That child lives no longer, except in this duplication of its genetic code, now broken and imitated, at least in part. Just crazy, horrible stuff here. Oh, and I love this sequence. Might be my favorite in the whole 3 issues. Instantly, all sight of the occupants of the joined tanks is gone. All the water seemed almost to boil from the fury of the encounter. You see? So absolute is their programming that they seek to destroy even their own kind, if they do not match their own imitative physiognomy. Maybe I got a feeling there's something else going on in that tank, but I gotta do something. Can't just sit here like a helpless invalid. But lack of oxygen is making it hard to think, to concentrate. Floor grid's too tough for me to break, though. But maybe the top of the tube is weaker. The master is pretty sure of himself. He was surprised Namor and I were still conscious. He may not have built these things to be as escape-proof as he thinks they are. No good. It's all sealed behind some kind of steel-hard plastic. But there has to be something I'm missing. That's it. Information. The master is obsessed with knowledge, with expanding his intellect. If only I can appeal to that drive, catch him off guard long enough. And I think I know what just might do the trick. Sudden as a falling stone, he drops. What? The biofunction monitors, all of Judd's vital signs have ceased. Remarkable. There was little indication of a decline. In fact, it seemed that he was holding up remarkably well. How can his entire system have collapsed so totally, so quickly? Quite dead. The body's already cold and stiffening. Poor little misshapen creature. There would have been no place for you in my perfect tomorrow. Yet curiously, I am touched by this death, his strength of spirit, his indomitable will. It is a tragedy indeed to lose these riches. Your hours are numbered, master. Count them upon the fingers of one hand. The death of the one called Puck shall not go unavenged. Bold words, Namor, but with all the power of a handful of smoke to back them. You are nearly dead yourself. Who can threaten my power, if even such as you has fallen before it? Well, how about me for a start, eh? You live? Very good, master. Maybe you are really as smart as you say you are. But not so smart I couldn't fool you with a little something I learned years ago in the Orient. Not quite the power to cloud men's minds, eh? But enough to stop my heart and breathing a while. Okay, Submariner, you're free too. Just incredible. And again, in just a few exchanges of dialogue, we get even a little more information about Puck. And man, if Byrne had stayed on the title, I would have loved to have seen what he did with Judd's background and what could be revealed. Submariner's super weak. He knows he needs water to get in this fight. Water. We're under 200 feet of water. But I can't open the ship to the lake, even if I did know how. There's still Marina to be dealt with, and I might well drown before Namor recovered enough to... Wait, Marina. These thoughts and more flash across Judd's mind in a fraction of a second. Before the next heartbeat, he acts. Awesome acrobatics here, I love this. Stop, what are you? Excuse the intimacy, master, but your helmet is the only thing around here that isn't nailed down. And I need something to throw. With all his might, the small man hurls the helmet at the glass facing of Marina's tank. His aim is faultless. It is his strength that proves lacking. Blast. I cracked the glass, but it didn't shatter. Never fear, Judd. Keep watch on our foe. Your actions have damaged the glass sufficiently that even in this weakened state, I can finish the job. His words carry more strength than his limbs, but he gathers his power, his will, and hurls himself at the glass, and succeeds. It worked. The glass is broken and Marina's free. Fools! Fools! You don't realize what you have done. I do not wear that helmet out of a choice of vanity. It was my control link to this vessel, to all my installations. It was joined to me, as much as part of me as my own flesh. Look now what you have done to me. Awesome there. So things go from bad to worse. The ship is out of control and flooding, and the creature is free. The monster can move out of water. Look out. It's too fast. Can't dodge it forever. No, its thrashing is damaging the ship's automatic systems. Stop it before we sink. Even as the master shouts his warning, as if suddenly snagged on a great invisible hook, the strange submarine begins to thrash wildly, almost in mimicry of the monster in its gleaming guts. And abruptly, hull breach, Namor, get me out of here. But Marina, she's too far gone for us to help now, and she can breathe underwater. I can't. Very well. But I will at least send her out of this madman's clutches. He tossed her out against the pressure of the water coming in. I always knew Namor was strong, but that's incredible. Faster almost than the eye can follow, the submariner launches himself from the dying vessel. But, fast as he is, Marina is faster, and she is nowhere to be seen. Made it. I will fly you to the shore. Then I must go back and look for Great Neptune, a gigantic bubble. The master's ship must have exploded. 6 hours later. It'll be full dawn in a while. The sun's already coloring the horizon. Where is Namor? Wait a minute. There. Anything? Much. The lake bed is strewn with the debris of the master's ship, that and masses of ooze and gristle I take to be the remains of the monster. The master himself is nowhere to be seen, not at least as a recognizable human body. But Marina is also gone without a trace. I pray she escaped the blast, but he's really taking it hard, poor guy. You don't think of kings and princes having a heartache like the rest of us. Take it easy, Namor. It's rough, and I know you've had more than your share of the misery in your life, eh? But Marina's a tough little item. She probably survived worse things than this as an egg being tossed all over the Atlantic for 40,000 years. Take my word for it. If it was meant to be, you'll see her again, but only when she's ready. Perhaps you are right. You're a wise friend, Judd. I will heed the lesson of your words. My business is elsewhere now, once more within the round towers of Atlantis. Fare you well, Puck. You are a valiant warrior. You have earned the respect of the Submariner. So long, Namor. Keep in touch, eh? Quite a man, and he's been all things in his long life. Hero and villain, victor and vanquished. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of me. But now, and again, before I go on, another hint into Puck's mysterious past. All right, Marina, you can come out now. You knew I was here? For how long, Judd? Long enough to realize you didn't want him to know. Not long. How are you, Marina? Recovered, and yet not at all recovered. Oh, what am I to do, Judd? I feel so awful, so used. I feel as if I've been turned inside out, stripped naked in front of the whole world. Not surprising, eh? That's pretty much what happened, isn't it? The master reached deep down inside you and... No, it wasn't the master, don't you understand? It wasn't him at all. It was the creature, that horrible monster. It reached into my soul without words, without doing anything. It opened a part of me I didn't even know was there. A part of me that wanted to be opened, that wanted to kill and maim and destroy. I knew what was happening to me and I didn't fight it. I didn't want to. Because that creature was more, oh much more than just another member of my race, Judd. It was biologically matched to me, to my cells, my instincts. It was my mate. I'm not fit for human company, Judd. I know that now. I was fooling myself thinking I could find some answer in Atlantis, some hope in the love of a man like the Submariner. But it was all a sham, a terrible, empty joke. I have to go away, Judd, away from people, away from Alpha Flight. Marina? No, I'm not Marina, Judd. Marina was a simple girl from a tiny island. She had a family and friends, people she loved and who loved her. While I am only a monster. Next issue, changes are coming for Alpha Flight. Big changes. And they start next issue. The X-Men guest star in Dreams Die Hard. Be here in 14 days. So he was able to do it in 14 days because most of the next issue is a reprint. And what we get on the next couple pages, we get a letters page, Alpha Waves, people talking about issue 11. Of course, these letters were written before anyone knew what was going to happen in issue 12. But next to it on this facing page, we get one of my favorite house ads in the history of house ads. John Byrne was so good at this. He did the same kind of house ad in issue 11. One of these heroes will die. So here he's revisiting that theme. Guardian is dead. Who will lead Alpha Flight? Find out in Alpha Flight number 17, guest starring Wolverine with a special appearance by the X-Men, on sale September 9th. Man, John Byrne could draw him some house ads. Wow. Totally great. No one draws Sasquatch like Byrne. Just incredible. I love these characters, and yeah, just awesome. These issues, to me, the definitive 3 issues of John Byrne's 28-issue run on Alpha Flight, they're my favorites. What are your favorites? Let me know in the comments. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.